You know that feeling when you just wish you had an undo button for real life? Well, it turns out, in the world of math, we actually do. Today, we're going to dive into the inverse function. It's basically math's very own way of hitting reverse.
Okay, so let's start with a really simple idea. Imagine we've got this little machine, right? And we pop a number into it. Let's say the number 3. The machine's only job is to double whatever we give it. So what comes out? Yep, the number 6. Pretty straightforward.
And this machine, it's super predictable. You put in a 5, and you know for a fact you're getting a 10. No surprises. The output is totally dependent on the input. And in math, this reliable little machine has a name. We call it a function.
But what if we want to go the other way? What if we have the 10 and we want to figure out how to get back to our original 5? That question right there is the absolute key to everything we're exploring today. So this reversing machine, this undo button, it actually has a formal name. It's called an inverse function. And its whole purpose in life, its entire job, is to perfectly cancel out whatever the first function did, bringing us right back home to where we started. Okay, but here's a little catch. It's not quite as simple as just hitting reverse on any function. Before we can even think about building our undo button, we have to talk about a really important safety feature. It's a rule that stops the whole system from breaking down into total confusion. I mean, can you just reverse any machine without causing some kind of problem? What happens when you try to go backward and the machine just glitches? It's stuck, totally unsure of what to do next. All right, let's look at 2 different machines side by side. On the left, you've got our trusty doubling machine. We call this 1-to-1 because every input gives you a totally unique output. Going backward is a piece of cake. But look at the machine on the right. This one squares the number. So 2 goes in, 4 comes out. But wait, -2 also goes in, and 4 comes out. Uh-oh. So now, try to go backwards. If you put 4 into the undo machine, what does it spit out? 2 or -2? The machine has no idea. It's completely ambiguous. And that's the big takeaway here. This is so important. For a function to even have an inverse that works properly, it absolutely must be 1-to-1. Every single input has to map to its own special, unique output. No 2 inputs can share the same output. That's the only way to guarantee that the trip back is crystal clear. Okay, so now that we know the most important rule of the road, the 1-to-1 rule, it's time to get our hands dirty. We're going to switch hats from safety inspectors to engineers and actually build one of these inverse functions ourselves. And don't worry, there's a simple recipe for it. Yeah, let's build one. It's actually not that bad, I promise. It's just 4 simple steps. Think of it like a recipe.
All right, here's the recipe. Step 1, just replace that f of x with a plain old y. Easy enough. Step 2, and this is the magic move, you swap the x and the y. You literally just trade their places. This is the moment you're flipping the machine into reverse. Step 3, now you just do a little bit of algebra to solve for that new y. And finally, step 4, you give that new y its official name, which is f inverse of x. And that's it. That's the whole process.
So we've got the algebra down. But honestly, this next part is my favorite. It's where things get really beautiful. We're going to see what this whole inverse thing looks like on a graph. And trust me, there's a really cool visual secret hiding in plain sight. Okay, let's use a super simple function to see this in action. How about f of x equals x plus 3? All this thing does is take a number and add 3. That's it. Now, if you were to run this through our 4-step recipe, you'd find that its inverse is x minus 3, which makes perfect sense, right? One function adds 3, and its inverse does the exact opposite. It subtracts 3. They are perfect opposites. And this is that beautiful secret I was talking about. When you put both of these on a graph, you don't just see 2 random lines. What you see is this perfect, gorgeous symmetry. They are perfect mirror images of each other, reflected right across that diagonal line y equals x. And if you look at the points, you can see exactly why this happens. Check it out. A point like 0, 3 on our original line becomes 3, 0 on the inverse line. The point 1, 4 becomes 4, 1. You see that? The x and y coordinates are just swapped. And does that sound familiar? It should. That's exactly what we did back in step 2 of our recipe. The algebra we did is the reason for the beautiful symmetry we see. It's just 2 different ways of telling the exact same story.
Okay, so you followed the recipe, you graphed it, it looks like a perfect mirror image, but how can you be absolutely 100% sure you got it right? Well, there's one last test we can do. Think of it as the ultimate quality check.
And to do this check, we use a cool technique called function composition. All this means is you're hooking the functions up together, like an assembly line. The number that comes out of the first machine immediately goes right into the second machine.
And really, the best way to think about it is as a round trip. You start with a number, you send it through your first function, and then you take that result and send it right through the inverse. If you did everything right, you should land exactly back where you started. It's the final proof. Let's do a quick one. Let's start with 5. We put it into our first function, which adds 3. So we get 8. Now we take that 8 and immediately put it into our inverse, which subtracts 3, and what do we get? We're back at 5. Boom! The round trip worked perfectly. We can now officially say our inverse is correct. All right, so let's just quickly run through the big ideas. First, an inverse function is just a mathematical undo button. Second, you can only have an inverse if your original function is 1-to-1. Third, when you graph them, they're beautiful mirror images across the line y equals x. And finally, if you ever want to be sure, just use the round trip test. You know, this idea of a perfect reversal, of an action having a perfect undo, it's such a powerful concept. It shows up everywhere, from locking and unlocking a door to cryptography to just untying your shoes. So it kind of makes you wonder, right? Where else in your life do you rely on these perfect opposites to get you back to where you started?